Welcome back, everyone. Kevin Carpenter, CPP Events, and I'm here with Walter Brown, and we're getting ready for C++ on C, which will be running from June 23rd to the 25th. And then the other reason why we got Walter here is because we're going to talk about his workshop, which is going to be on the 26th and the 27th, which I'm super excited about. And so, Walter, thanks for giving me time this morning. It's good to see you.
My pleasure, Kevin. Good to see you again.
So workshops wise, I just want to mention like we have a couple other workshops going too. We got C++ in practice with Nikolai, C++ best practices with Jason Turner, and structured concurrency with Matush Push. But I'm excited about is the templates one because Walter, I've known Walter for a while. Walter gives this particular class a bit, and I've never gotten to take it, so that's why I'm so excited for it. So Walter's been a computer programmer for longer than most of us, and 40 years of that's been in C++. Standards committee since 2000, right? But you're emeritus now.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct. I was
Little
granted that
over a
status.
little over 175 papers or proposals at least.
Something like I've lost count. I really have, but that seems pretty close.
You can be thankful for Walter's continuous contributions. C begin, CN, common type. Some of C maths, random and ratio, I believe, came from you.
Yep.
Um, you worked with the spaceship operator, static assert, a lot of stuff on templates, right? Alias for templates, contextual conversions, variable templates.
Right. Well, contextual conversions is not particularly templates,
Okay.
but the others are. Yes.
And and all of this, and you still get time for the grandkids.
Love the grandkids. We got another one on the way, I'm told.
That's awesome. Our youngest is 22 and our oldest is 26, and so I told them I'm like, you can give me 5 years. I'm not in a rush.
Yep. Well, we have grandkids in high school. We've got grandkids, as I say, one on the way that we've been told. In fact, if he's on schedule or she should be there just before CPP on C.
Well, right on. I hope that it happens just before so you can enjoy that before coming to teach us. So your class is C++ templates for developers.
Yes,
And I mean, so you and I were talking about this because like I've been developing for a long time, but as much as I write, we have libraries. I don't really feel like I write libraries. Like I consume the standard library, so I know I use templates all the time. I mean,
yes,
because that's what the standard template library is. And
exactly.
and I understand templates a little bit, but I'm looking forward to your class because I want to learn how to harness the power of it, right?
Yes. What most people start off doing with templates is implementing algorithms. Now, we know that there are a lot of algorithms in the standard library already, but there are even more that have not been standardized and perhaps don't really belong in the standard library, but do belong in certain developers' libraries. And often, a very good way to implement an algorithm is with a template, and often it's a function template. So
Mm-hmm.
that's actually the first kind of template that my workshop goes into. And we spend a fair amount of time on function templates on the first day,
Okay.
because I've discovered that once people have a really good handle on that,
Mm-hmm.
much of the rest of it is much easier to explain and goes down very, very quickly. So, of the 2 days, we tend to spend uh, the greatest portion on function templates. That would be on the first day in the
Mm-hmm.
morning. And then the rest of the first day, we cover almost all of the other kinds of templates. Most people aren't aware, but there are really seven, it depends on how you count, but there are
Right.
7 or even 8 different kinds of templates now in C++, in addition to function templates and class templates, which almost everybody knows about.
Right.
Also, alias templates. There are concepts, which are a kind of template. We have lambdas, which can be templated. We have variable templates, which I tried to get into the standard as early as 2005, but it didn't actually happen until 2014. which is too bad. I called them object templates at first, but
Hmm.
we got them in under the name variable templates, which of course is fine. But all of that gets covered on the first day and a little bit of spillover onto the second day.
So for someone taking the class, because that's where I'm like, I've definitely been doing C++ for a couple of years because I was looking at your outline and that kind of seemed to be the thing. Have a couple of years of recent C++ experience. I'm guessing,
Mhm.
have at least a little bit of understanding of, the standard template library. When I say that, just the fact that you use it, that you're pulling in,
That's right.
arrays or pulling in vector and maybe calling an algorithm with it, just like you said. Um,
Mhm.
I I have to say I'm really excited about the way you're saying you're approaching that with function templates first because you know the only couple times I've used templates in our own work is, I deal with credit cards. And so there are spots where we've, made templates. We make our own types for each credit card brand, Visa versus MasterCard, because there's slight differences. And then we would
Right.
turn around and, try to genericize some things by, using some templates. When I say we, I mean the other developers that I work with that understand templates better than me. But so as long as you have that intermediate, then you should be good for handling the material in the class. Yeah.
I think so. I have had quite a range of backgrounds among previous attendees, including some people who are college students, and
Hmm.
I've had others who are seasoned developers with up to 20 years of experience, but never had an opportunity to be shown this material in any sort of structured way.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, a lot of programmers who program as part of their jobs, even if it's not full time, have picked up. Well, I had a former colleague who described himself as having learned programming in the gutter. He
Right.
was a physicist, and his formal university training, he was a PhD, but he never had room to take any formal training in computing, much less in C++ computing.
Yeah.
So he described himself as being not just self taught, but taught in the gutter. That was his phrase. Um, but I find that people who have a handle on programming in general and know even a little about C++ do well. They're able to pick up what's going on. And of course, they build on whatever they already know and then they can take it in whatever direction seems most appropriate after the workshop. I make sure that people not only understand what's going on, but understand most of the principles that underlie templates in C++, because
Gotcha.
I'm very big on programmers who can reason about their code. That's very important, in my opinion. And so I've had feedback from previous attendees who have been particularly appreciative of that.
Hmm.
Even if you don't remember every single little detail, a lot of them you can just reason out for yourself. And I also make sure that people are comfortable with looking things up in the actual standard. I do
Yeah.
a fair amount of quoting from the standard. I provide the citation so that people can read the exact words. But as we all know, the standard is not a tutorial. So it takes a little bit of background to feel comfortable in delving into the precise specification.
That's
So, I try to make people comfortable with that as well.
Well, I'm excited for the class. So you've sold me. I'll definitely be there. I wanted to touch real quick though for, I was looking again at the syllabus, if you will. And so for modern, as long as you have a modern, Clang 20, Clang, or not Clang 20, but Clang, or do you want GCC? Do you find, is there that much difference?
The compiler doesn't matter very much. What
Okay.
I recommend is an environment that supports at least C++ 17,
Okay.
preferably C++20, and we
Gotcha.
will even do a little bit of 23 and what I know that's coming down the pipeline in 26 as well.
Oh, wow. Right on.
Yes. Um, that hasn't been finalized, of course, so there's not going to be a great deal of that.
Yeah.
Um, but 23 has been out now for a year or so. So we will touch on some of the changes that brings in. I try to mention with every feature which standard brought it to us
Okay.
so that, because, well, let me put it this way. I know that we have developers who can only use a certain C++ standard.
Right.
So they need to know whether a particular feature will be available to them if they're constrained to, say, 14 or 11 or 17.
Yep.
So I try to be very careful. There are so many features nowadays. The truth is, I can't remember anymore all of the little details, but they're all on my slides. And I try to be very precise about when you can use what features.
Very cool. So we know everybody wants to come take your class, and we'll cover how to get there, but then you're also giving a talk. I mean, if doing a class wasn't
Yes,
enough, you have In Search of the Perfect Return, a C++ programming journey. So
that's right.
give us a quick bite of what that talk's going to be about.
Well, I've described this talk to myself as Y-shaped. The
Okay.
letter Y, if you print it, a capital Y, takes 3 strokes. And so this is
Yeah.
actually going to be a 3-part talk. Part 1 will be an exploration of certain C++ features that most of us have some familiarity with, but perhaps not in depth.
Mm-hmm.
Then part 2 is sort of completely different. It's like lifting up your pencil and drawing another stroke. And I
Okay.
spend a few minutes introducing what many people have perceived to be a problem in C++ coding. It's in our standard library, it's in the algorithms, it is in algorithms that people have written, and I want to explore that particular issue. And then in part 3, I combine parts 1 and 2 to solve the problem using the features. So we'll solve part 2 and use the features from part 1.
Very cool.
And at CPP on C, I think we can do all of that in 90 minutes.
If anybody can, I'm sure it's going to be you, Walter.
That's very kind of you. Thank you. Looking
So
forward to
listen,
seeing you there, my friend.
oh, you too. And so for everyone watching, if you haven't bought a ticket yet, we have something this year where for 14.50 you can get it all. And so that's being able to do the workshops with Walter every day of the concert, every day of the conference, and the speaker's dinner, which is lovely because we sit down in the channel hall and we look out across the channel while we're having dinner. And so, hop over to, cpponsea.uk, get your tickets picked up. And Walter, I'm so looking forward to seeing you in Folkestone for C++ on C this year.
I feel likewise. It's been a great conference. I've attended almost all of them. I think I had to miss one because of a conflict,
Yeah.
but it's always been a great conference, and I'm looking forward to it, to seeing you and all my other C++ colleagues and my new colleagues as well.
We'll see you at the conference. Thanks, Walter.
Thank you too, Kevin. Goodbye.
Bye bye.